morning. Chairman Elbert, thank you. And you were talking about being the oldest one here.
Second.
Second oldest. Second oldest. You know that I work with the being in the House. I work with the United States Senate, and you're a young man for some of you that are in the United States Senate. So I remember when I was first elected to Congress, I was the youngest Republican that was elected that year, and that was serving the 105th Congress. And Strom Thurmond was the oldest. And bear in mind, he ran for president in 1948. And but he was in his 90s when I was first got elected, and and he served until he was almost 100. So like I say, you're a young man. I remember he was I think he was 94 or 96 when he was running for re-election. And a lot of the newspapers in South Carolina were doing the stories about him being in his 90s running for re-election in the United States Senate. And they happened to find one of his babysitters was an old lady that was 2 or 3 years older than him, and she had actually babysit him when he was a little boy. And so they interviewed her, and they were asking her what she thought about Strom Thurmond and him running for the United States Senate at age 96 or 94, whatever his age was. And she said, just had great things to say about Strom Thurmond. She said, he is a fine young man. And so if you're a babysitter for Strom Thurmond and you're a few years older, he's a fine young man. So anyway, it is great to be here for this meeting here with C3, and especially for your State of the Region meeting. And I want to thank you for receiving the award just a year ago for the C3 Champion Award. And I appreciate the honor that you gave me that. I know that you're going to have another honoree today, and we certainly congratulate them on that. I just particularly want to thank David Thornell for his work in doing a great job in putting this together and the work he does for economic development. Economic development is one of the most crucial things that you can do for any region. And whether it be an area that's a growing metropolitan area, or whether it be a rural part, you've got to have somebody that does economic development, that will stay on it, that works hard. It's not an easy job. My wife was involved with economic development before we got married, and it's a lot of hit and miss. And I'm sure David can tell you but you have to stay at it, you have to work hard, and you get a lot of disappointments, but you get a lot of rewards along the way. And so David does a great job, and just by the people that are here this morning, it's a great indication that what C3 is doing and trying to bring jobs in here. Also, I see on the agenda, and unfortunately, I've got to slip out a little early. I've got some other meetings here in the area that I've got to attend, so I'm not going to be able to stay for all your meeting, but good to see Mark Brazil on the agenda today. And Mark and I have known each other for many years, from the Toyota plant there in Huntsville. I still remember, was it your 1 million engine that came out?
Yep.
I mean, it was during the Riley administration, and that was quite many years ago. But of course, Mark was now VP of administration with Mazda Toyota, and so we're happy that he's there, working with him over the years. They're very fortunate to have him in that role. So congratulations, Mark, and I know you will. Everybody's going to enjoy hearing your comments this morning. But it's certainly an honor for me to represent our area, and as Mr. Elbert mentioned, this is all 3 counties here are part of the 4th Congressional District. The 4th Congressional District has, it's according to how you count them, you count partial counties and all that, but there's around 15, 16 counties in the 4th Congressional District that stretch all the way here from Mississippi line over here in Marion County, all the way over to Cherokee and DeKalb County on the western part of the district. But all 3 of the counties here in the C3 region is part of the 4th Congressional District. And this is the area that I grew up in. I grew up, technically, I grew up in Marion County. Of course, Haleville is my address, and I live on the outskirts of Haleville, but as you know, it's sort of like Winfield. Some of it's in Fayette County, and some of it's in Marion County. And so I grew up in Marion County. So this is special to be here today. And like I said, I feel at home being here, and I I look around the room, and we were chatting before we were to sit down here. A lot of old friends that I've known for a long, long time that I'm seeing here today, and so it's great to be with you and have a chance to visit with you a little bit. You know, a lot of the things that goes on in Washington, and sometimes the news that the big votes that we take in Washington, it gets all the attention. And, you know, whether it's voting for a particular bill, whether it's doing a Congressional Medal of Honor, whether it's voting to not impeach the president, as I voted, but whatever the case may be, and of course, as you know, what's going on in Washington this week with the trial in the Senate. So sometimes those are the things that gets all the attention in Washington, and some of the other things don't get quite as much attention. And one of those things is the appropriations process. And that is the committee that I serve on, the Appropriations Committee. I have honored to serve on the House side on appropriations, what Senator Shelby serves, of course, on the Senate side, and fortunate enough to be chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee. And we work on a lot of issues that I believe help rural Alabama and help economic development issues. You have to make sure that you do everything you can to try to create infrastructure. And I think that's vitally important for economic development. One thing that I, as a member of Congress, want to do, and represent this area and represent all the counties of the 4th Congressional District, is grow the economy. And I seriously mean that. As I say, my wife did economic development before we were married. I understand the importance of trying to make sure that you grow the economy for an area. Make sure you have better jobs. Make sure that you have hard-working people that are wanting to go to work every day, and making sure those jobs are available. And this is really a special time in the United States of America. We are adding more than, or just the last year, the U.S. economy is adding over 2 million jobs to the workforce. Here in Alabama, if you look at the newspapers, month after month after month, you see that the unemployment numbers continue to tumble. And it's people that are out there that are finding jobs. And you know, we were having dinner last night in the Shoals area. You know, if people want to get a job, they can find a job, and it's really a special time. The defense and space industries are experiencing a tremendous growth in the state of Alabama. Agriculture is booming in the state of Alabama. As most of you know, Alabama is number 2 nationwide as far as production of poultry. And that's something to be proud of. President Trump, and I'm very pleased that this president is doing this, is he's really making an effort to try to make sure that we rebuild our American manufacturing base. And that's something that we really need to do for a long time. And we have done a lot of trade agreements in the past, but unfortunately, I have seen it when I first came to Washington. There were a lot of caving in when it came to those trade agreements. And I will say it's sometimes tough for the president to do. He gets a lot of pressure from all sides, but he understands, I think he understands, especially for rural America, that it is important we have a solid manufacturing base. And along with this was coming good trade deals. And I think those are important because they open up markets to other places in this, around the, we just did the U.S.-Mexico-Canadian trade deal. And that will open up more products that we create here and that we make here, like poultry, for example, to be able to be sold in other countries. And that's so important, and make sure that we do not cave in giving away our own jobs at the same time. So protecting jobs, protecting rural hospitals, protecting rural clinics, getting a highly trained workforce, doing economic development is vitally important. I want to mention to you, just because this is the year for the census, I do want to mention how important the census is. 2020 is the once every 10 years we do the census, and I say we, the federal government, does the census, and it is so important that we make sure we count. There are some discussions that's been talked about of whether we will lose a congressional seat in the state of Alabama. As you know, what happens is they total up all the number of when they come back after taking the census, they look at each state, and according to the shifts in population from state to state, to allocate the number of members of Congress. There's only 435 members of Congress that are all over the entire country, from California to New York, from East Coast to West Coast. And so those 435 have to be allocated to the states. traditionally, we have always have 7 members of, when I say always, since the 1960 census, we've had 7 members of Congress, and we have maintained that. However, some of the preliminary numbers looking at that have come back have said that, we could be at that threshold that we would go down to only 6 members of Congress. It's not a done deal. It's just some of the preliminary numbers. And that's why the census is so important. I know everybody in this room is an opinion leader, and some of you are elected officials, some of you are leaders in your business. But if you could let the folks that you work with and the people that you're around know how important the census is for the state of Alabama this year, it would be a great deal of help. And not necessarily for just having an extra member of Congress or to keep our delegation, but what is important, most people don't realize, for every person that's counted, we get $1,600 of additional funds for the state of Alabama. So every person that is not counted, that $1,600 that you lose, the federal funding that comes into the state of Alabama. And $1,600, you may say, well, that's not just a lot of money on the scheme of things. But when you think about there's almost 5 million people that live in the state of Alabama, you're talking about right at $8 billion. And so to have a portion of a chunk of that, over $1 billion to be going out of our economy is really big. And so that's why it's important that we make sure that everybody is counted, that we do everything we can so that we have the health care we need. We need the money for education, because those are the things that will suffer. Healthcare, education, all will suffer if we don't have a good count. So I encourage you to do that. One reason, and I also did want to bring it up, is for some reason, and I don't know why, but Marion County back in the 2010 census had I think, the lowest rate census return of any county in the state of Alabama. And again, I don't know why that was at the time. I'll be honest with you. Back in 2010, we did not have we were under a threat of losing a congressional seat, and I think whoever was in Montgomery at the time, especially with the governor, it was not a high priority. This governor, Kay Ivey, has made it a high priority because she knows how much it would mean to the state of Alabama and how much it would be lost to the state of Alabama if that was not received. So if we don't count everybody. So I'm hoping Marion County now will be the leader, and like I said, I think we'll call a lot more attention, so I don't think that'll be a problem this time. Another thing in Washington that I try to do is I try to protect those that are truly vulnerable. I think that's an important role for any of us that serve in Congress. Of course, for me, standing up for the unborn is very important. Of course, I want to see when there's a day there's not a single abortion, because there's no unborn children out there. But it goes far beyond that. I co-chair the Congressional Adoption Adoption Caucus in the House of Representatives, and anything and what we do is try to make laws that foster and try to encourage adoption in any way possible. We have an epidemic of child abuse in this country. We have the exploitation of trafficking of young girls. I have a 20-year-old daughter, so I understand how important that is to make sure that we don't have exploitation and trafficking. So I want to do everything that I can from the standpoint of our role and from the federal government's resources to make sure that we crack down on that. Persuade President Trump, which he has certainly been very good at, is to mobilize all the resources available to make sure that we combat the problem of child exploitation, trafficking, and child abuse. Most people don't realize that there is still a lot of Christian persecution around the world. We are very fortunate here in the United States that people can go to worship, as we hear the church bells ring right now. We know that people can go and worship freely, but unfortunately there are 143 countries around the world where there is still persecution. And they have to hide on Sunday whatever the worship is to be able to go to church and to meet with other believers. And so we're working to make sure that people have freedom of religion around the world, and make sure we try to some way let those other countries that we deal with know that religious persecution is something that's very egregious to the people of the United States. And then, of course, I think making sure that we continue America's leadership is vitally important for this country. American leadership is essential for an orderly and productive world. And America is really in the lead. We have been really the face of hope for so many places around the world. And we continue to be an example, and I want us to make sure that we do continue to be that example. If we want peace, I think it's imperative that we have a strong military and that we have a strong presence not only here in this country but around the world, and do everything we can with our NATO allies, do everything we can to make sure that we show strength. And in order to, in this day and age, it's not just necessarily the number of troops you have, and of course that's important, that we have a strong troops presence. And that we maintain that, but also technology is really what's important for military strength today. And I'm very proud that North Alabama is a leader in weapon research. And a lot of people would be surprised to learn that so much of the things, the hypersonic weapons to powerful lasers, are done right here in Alabama, and especially North Alabama. And I know a lot of the innovation, I know a lot of the research is based in Huntsville, but what I would like to see make a priority is that we expand those technology jobs outside of just the Huntsville area to make sure that all the parts of the 4th Congressional Districts can have a piece of that. And that's why it's good to see Steve Bush here today. Steve, thank you for being here. Worked with Steve over the last couple of years regarding broadband and trying to make sure that we expand broadband to rural America. And I think all of these things that I've talked about are firmly within reach. And because this is a really exciting time, not only for this country, but also for the state of Alabama. So I just want to leave you with that and let you know it's a real honor for me to represent the district. I'm honored. I know that when I go to Washington, I'm not voting for myself. I'm voting for the approximately 700,000 people that live here across the 4th Congressional District that I'm honored to represent. So again, thank you for letting me be here and for sharing with you. Please know my door is always open any way that I can be of service to you. I know Paul Housel in my office works very closely with you, and he's based out of our Jasper office, but anytime he'll track me down, call me in Washington, wherever I can be of service. But thank you for what you do. Look forward to working with you, and God bless. God bless.